So if you save between $1 and $5 million, the big question you might have on your mind is it time to change financial advisors? That's what we're going to talk about on today's show.
Another edition of Your Retirement Elevated is here. Walter Storholt alongside Scott Dugan, managing partner of Elevated Retirement Group. And on today's episode, we're really talking to those of you who are between maybe $1 million and $5 million saved for retirement, or you think you're going to get there maybe someday in the near future. This is specific advice to you. And Scott, you get this question a lot. Should I change financial advisors once I kind of get into that territory? Why do people have that as their mindset out of the gate?
Well, we hear from people, because that's the type of people that seem to be attracted to our firm, just fortunate that they're usually in that $1 to $5 million saved for retirement. And so it's a very small percentage of the population. But when you start to get to that point or you're in that territory, mistakes are amplified. The stakes are larger and there are no do-overs, and you get one shot at doing retirement right. And so a lot of people are saying, hey, we've got to this point. We're starting to hear things about maybe taxes, withdrawal strategies, income guardrails, and we just haven't talked about that with our current advisor. Or maybe you're just, have money saved in your 401k or doing things on your own. So that's when people, as they start to research or start to hear more topics that may be applicable to the situation, that's kind of it gets on their radar, the bells and whistles go off, and they say, hey, should we potentially look at hiring a new team of people to help us to and through retirement?
Well, let's look at some of the key considerations for those folks then. First thing that comes to mind for me is that shift from accumulation to distribution, because that's what we're really talking about when you get to retirement. And perhaps maybe people are thinking maybe there's somebody that's more specialized to help with that kind of planning.
Oh, definitely. And I would say my industry likes to throw around the terms accumulation and decumulation. It's going from saving money to spending money. It's what it's about. Okay. Accumulation is saving it. Decumulation is spending money. You're taking a paycheck from it. And yeah, the things that can affect you while you're working and putting money away and retiring, your dollar cost averaging money into your 401k or IRA at work, that works out perfectly fine. An example, when you get into those spending years where you've got to rely upon those savings to give you your paycheck, you have to do something called reverse dollar cost averaging, meaning the markets could be doing this and you have to sell off shares of your stock or your mutual fund, your index fund, to pay your utilities or your monthly bills. And so the vast majority of advice out there is about how to put money away, how to tax defer it, how to save it for that day when you do retire. And where our specialty is people that are 5 years from retirement or solidly retired that have saved $1 to $5 million. They know they're going to need to draw a paycheck from that nest egg, but they're also concerned about taxes are potentially a big issue. And they really haven't gotten any advice or any guidance around how do we minimize taxes as we withdraw those resources in that spending phase of retirement.
I imagine risk becomes a bigger conversation with people as well, not only because, you've accumulated so much and are, have a lot to work with, but also you're going to see numbers drop quite a bit when there is volatility in the market. But also risk is not something we should all be that concerned of when we're younger on the whole, but it becomes more and more important the closer we get to retirement. So I would imagine that's part of that discussion of, seeking out an advisor who's going to help in those manners.
Mm-hmm. And properly constructing the plan to make sure that we do have a smart place to take money from to supply that monthly paycheck if that's what your plan requires. We are at risk of something called sequence of returns, meaning we can't determine what the stock market's going to do in our retirement. In the especially first 2, 3, 4 years. And so we want to make sure that if we get a bad negative market, like an 08, 09, 01, 02, 03, if we get that early on in retirement, can we withstand that? Do we have the appropriate amount of risk put into place? Do we have a smart place to take money from when the market's not cooperating? And so everyone should have a risk number, or we call our risk speed limit, to determine how comfortable are you at taking risk, and how much risk can you afford to take. And so risk is a big component of it. We want to be able to take on as much risk as needed to get the desired outcome. And once we establish those baselines, then the amount of risk we take above and beyond what's needed, that's a personal decision that people can make.
Excellent. Well, I want to expand a little bit more on taxes because you briefly talked about it, and that being so important to consider for folks that are planning for retirement, but especially when we get to these dollar levels of that $1 million to $5 million range, there are lots of opportunities to be taken advantage of. There are big differences to be made in the amount of money saved on taxes. So if somebody's not asking that question, am I paying too much in taxes, or what's my tax exposure, or the other 75 ways we could couch that question, they're really missing the boat, right?
Oh, they are. And you have to ask, the last time, so if you're working with someone, the last time that you went in to meet with your advisor, when they went through your tax return line by line and analyzed that and helped identify money falling through the cracks, not only now, but in the future, were you satisfied with that process? And either you are satisfied with it, you aren't, or it never happened. And it's my experience that it usually doesn't happen because a vast majority of advisors are accumulation advisors, meaning they want to grow the assets. But when it comes to taxes or reading a tax return or doing tax planning or preparation, that's just not part of what they do when they're advising clients. And we feel that's a very important part of planning. And it's very hard to make forward-looking decisions without considering the tax ramifications. And what happens, either someone listens to this YouTube channel or a podcast, has read my book, that they've been under the concept of the idea or belief that, hey, let's put money away, let's tax defer as much as possible, because when we retire, our tax rates are going to be lower. Well, what a lot of our clients find out is that they're probably not going to be in a lower tax bracket because they've been good at saving, they've got a good Social Security, maybe a pension. And so taxes really haven't been a part of the plan. They've deferred the taxes, but they've really deferred the calculation of the taxes. And so a lot of our clients are, and like with us and as advisors, we have a belief that tax rates are more than likely going to be higher in the future. And there are things that we can do now to insulate ourselves against future tax hikes. And so we want to take advantage of whatever is available to us. And so again, taxes, tax planning, tax mitigation is a crucial part of any solid comprehensive plan.
Is your retirement journey truly tailored to your needs? In his book, Exceptional Retirement: Tools and Strategies for Retiring on Your Own Terms, Scott Dugan addresses the crucial questions all retirees ask. Discover the power of a clear financial decision-making process that can prevent major retirement mistakes and unlock exceptional opportunities. In the book, Scott outlines 4 essential questions that guide retirees toward successful outcomes. Don't miss out on key insights that could define your future. Available now on Amazon. Click the link in the description of this episode to get your copy of Exceptional Retirement.
You should be listening for key words in those appointments with your advisor, right? Like tax efficiency or discussions of Roth, maybe Roth conversions, or thinking about RMDs, required minimum distributions. Those are the kinds of words that should be brought up in the planning process. That'll tell you and clue you in that somebody's focusing on this bigger tax planning picture.
Absolutely. And you had a discussion with someone that had engaged from the YouTube channel recently.
Okay.
And I said, well, tell me about what's been going on. He goes, well, I've been working with an advisor for many years. I've got a CPA. I said, well, great. Well, I said, what did you pay in taxes last year, and could you have paid less? And there's this long silence.
Oh.
He goes, well, I could look it up and tell you what I paid. And he goes, I'm embarrassed to say I have no idea if I could have paid less. I said, so what are you doing proactively right now? Because, it's the end of the year. I said, when you met with your CPA, what did they put in front of you as possible year-end moves to make sure you're maximizing all you can in your tax situation? Because we haven't had that meeting. And, I've sent a couple emails, but with no response. I said, so really what's happening is you're getting your taxes prepared, but you're not having any proactive tax planning done on your behalf. And he goes, well, because you know what? That's a fair and accurate statement. So what you're looking for is someone to be proactive and not reactive, someone looking towards the future, not just a historian taking numbers in and putting them into the system and giving your tax return. And so I think that's missing with people, for a lot of people that come to us, is that attention to detail, being proactive from a tax perspective. And again, we're just saying, if you don't have a tax plan, the IRS has provided you one.
Right. It's not going to be ideal for you, though.
It's not. And so you have to take action or align yourself with someone that can guide you through that process and have a checklist to go through and say, hey, what are all the things that are available to you? And stack all those wins on top of each other to lower your tax bill as much as possible.
One last thing I think we can cover here, Scott. Again, we're thinking about if you're between $1 million and $5 million, save for retirement, or you're going to be there, things you should be looking to hear from your current advisor. If you have this question in your mind of, should I change advisors when I hit this dollar amount? You should be hearing in the discussion solutions to the question, how long will my money last? If the conversation isn't geared in that direction, that would be a big red flag. How else might that be talked about and addressed, Scott?
Sure. And if you're watching this, and if you have this gnawing feeling in your stomach going, hey, are we going to be okay? Are we going to have enough? Are we going to outlive our money? Then there's not a plan in place. There's not a written, structured plan that has been presented to you that can give you confidence that you can spend predictably and confidently in retirement. So if you're sitting there going, I don't know if we should retire, I don't know when my enough is enough number. If there's all these unknowns, you probably have an investment plan. You don't have an income plan. You don't have a tax plan. You may have an estate plan, but they're not all working together. And that's what I think is missing for a lot of people. And the reason that they have if you have all these questions, that means that they just either the solutions haven't been provided to you, the plan's not there, or the person that you're working with just doesn't do those things. And that's okay. That doesn't make them bad. It's just if you have a bad knee injury, you want to go to a specialist. I would want to go to the best orthopedic that takes care of knees in the world if I had a knee problem. I'm not going to my general practitioner to get that fixed. When you're in that $1 to $5 million range, that's rare air. That's a very small percentage of the population. And so the advice that you're reading in Money Magazine, or when you're at the Christmas dinner table, holiday table, and Cousin Eddie is giving you advice on the hot stocks to pick, that probably doesn't apply to you. And the vast majority of the rules of thumb that you're reading about on the internet and watching on YouTube videos, those are blanket general things that candidly don't apply to the type of families that we work with. And so again, that's why if that question is, hey, should I change advisors? If you have these questions that are keeping you up at night and you don't have a clear written plan and you don't have a plan for where you're going to take your paycheck in retirement, what's your distribution plan? How are you going to handle required minimum distributions when you're at 73 or 75? Are you going to be able to minimize your taxes year in and year out? If you don't have those questions or have those answers to those questions, then it's probably time to seek advice from a different professional.
Well said. I think of it this way. You might see something online, a piece of information, or hear it from someone you know that makes sense, is accurate and helpful, but it might be geared to somebody who's 25 and has $50,000 saved for retirement. You might be 60 and have $3 million saved for retirement. And although that information was accurate and correct, it may not be the best information for your situation because it was geared to that other person. And so you always want to align that information, the purpose behind it, and its intended audience for you. And it boils down, Scott, it sounds like, to the same thing with choosing a financial advisor. You want to make sure you're working with someone who, they might be working beautifully for you in that previous phase of life, but it is possible that you might want to change advisors if retirement becomes your focus and that's no longer aligned with your current advisor's success or specialty and direction. So
Right.
beautifully said. Here's the contact information on the screen, the ways to get in touch with Scott Dugan. If you'd like to have a conversation about planning for retirement, if you're in that $1 to $5 million range, that fits right into a good chunk of the families that Scott works with all the time, folks approaching retirement, getting closer and closer to that date. Get that plan in place, go through the planning process. You can set it up very easily. Here are a couple of ways. You can call 913-393-4724. You can also go to the website, listentoscott.com, and we've got a calendar link that you can click on and book a call with Scott in the description of today's show, as well as other ways to get in touch. Scott, good episode today. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
See you next time.
That's another edition of Your Retirement Elevated. See you again soon.
Are you on the path to retirement but feel uncertain about your direction? Don't let myths and misconceptions cloud your journey. Before stepping into a lengthy retirement, gain clarity and confidence with a complimentary financial review. Schedule a conversation with Scott Dugan. It's completely free. Just click the link in the description below or call us at 913-393-4724. Let's start a conversation about what's most important to you as you plan for a successful retirement.
This video has been prepared for educational and marketing purposes only. The information in this video is general in nature, does not constitute personalized investment advice, and does not provide a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. All investments involve risk, and different types of investments involve varying degrees of risk. There can be no assurance that any specific investment strategy will be profitable or suitable to you. Additionally, although information presented in this video is believed to be factual and up to date, we do not guarantee its accuracy. You should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation and should consult a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies mentioned in this video. Investment advisory services are offered through Elevated Capital Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group LLC. Registration as an investment advisor does not constitute an endorsement of Elevated Capital Advisors LLC by securities regulators, nor does it indicate that the firm has attained a particular level of skill or ability. Insurance advice and products may be offered by a third-party insurance producer, which may be affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group LLC and Elevated Capital Advisors LLC. Walter Storholt and Third Wheel Media LLC receive compensation for their assistance in preparing and hosting this video.